Katy Tur associated what's going on down below with the with the middle class, but what has been happening with the stock market. Her piece was tops. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Remember when Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell warned that the U.S. economy was facing a downturn without modern precedent? He was right, of course. Yesterday, another 1.3 million people filed for unemployment insurance, far and away the worst week on record, except for the 16 weeks before it, each with more than 1 million people filing for benefits. But this week, we also learned that a downturn without modern precedent doesn't mean everyone is feeling so down. The 5 biggest investment banks on Wall Street are all profitable. Morgan Stanley just had the most profitable quarter in its history. And Goldman Sachs is on such a tear that one analyst described its earnings as almost indecent. But here's what's really unbelievable. The disconnect between Wall Street and Main Street, this gold rush on one while there are literal bread lines on the other, is not a bug in the system. It is a feature of the system. To soften the economic blow of the pandemic, the Fed flooded the economy with cheap cash and very few strings attached. And it's clearly working for the banks. But it may be about to get a whole lot worse for everyone else. At the end of this month, millions of Americans are slated to lose the extra $600 a week they've been receiving as part of the CARES Act, money that has been a crucial lifeline. To his credit, Chairman Powell has called on Congress to do more to provide relief for out-of-work Americans in April, and again in May, and again in June. If that money runs out while the virus keeps surging, eventually everyone hurts, and maybe even that'll turn to the banks. With me now is Sheila Cole-Hatkar, staff writer at The New Yorker. How is it that you can have Morgan Stanley posting its most profitable quarter on record, and as one analyst put it, Goldman Sachs can have indecent earnings, while on the other side of things, you can have millions of Americans going to food pantries?
One thing that's important to remember is that the stock market, much as President Trump likes to brag about it, the stock market is not an accurate reflection of the economic health of Main Street America. And the people who tend to benefit the most from a rising stock market are corporate executives, investors in big investment funds like hedge funds. And while there are many Americans with money invested in retirement accounts, usually that does not translate into food on the table. So they're really not reflecting the same world.
The unemployment benefits, the extra $600 runs out at the end of the month. There is more urgency around potentially extending that. President is talking about how he wants a payroll tax cut included. Would a payroll tax cut help average Americans?
The payroll tax cut, which the president has been talking about since the beginning of this, it's a little controversial because it only helps people who are employed. And a lot of economists believe that in a situation like this, an unprecedented sort of across the board economic collapse, you need to get cash into people's hands.
How much did that tax cut that the president and Congress passed a couple years ago have to do with this widening gap between the very rich and the middle of America?
Although they had promised that there'd be this sort of trickle-down effect of that big corporate tax cut, it did not really translate into benefits for average families.
And quickly, if you can, if that $600 benefit runs out and is not re-upped, what is that going to mean?
It's going to mean a lot of economic pain for individuals across the country. And of course, individual state unemployment benefits may still be available, but in many cases, it's not enough. And that is going to make this economic crisis worse, not better.
And let me tell you, it's not only going to make it worse, but it's going to cause a lot of other businesses to fail. That $600 that was in that we have putting into the economy right now to buy bread is no longer going to buy the bread that we have buying a burger here and there. So you're going to see your McDonald's shutting down, your Burger King shutting down. I'm just using those as examples. There will probably be other ones, but it's probably the smaller ones that are going to shut down. The chains are probably going to be fine altogether, but those small places are going to shut down as money disappears. Look, I think it is important for people to understand the basic tenet of what she just spoke about. The basic tenet of what she just spoke about is, think about it. Our economic system points out something. As the mainstream suffers, they get a chance up at top to increase efficiencies that aren't otherwise available to them. And that is the reasons why you're seeing the stock market taking off. They can dump their workforce. That creates quite a few percentage points off their baseline that they wouldn't have otherwise done. They have a whole lot of other costs that they can get rid of. And then the stimulus, they got a much bigger share of the stimulus than the average American citizen that is roaming around inside of corporate America. Why? Because they have the necessary lobbyists to make sure that things work the way they want it to work. I'm Egberto Willies, host of Politics Done Right, an independent news program. I post several news videos of interest every day. I ask you so kindly to subscribe to my channel and please leave me some comments. Thank you very much.